Hi everyone. So I've been working on a new project. I've talked a bit about it before, but it's called Midnight of the Century. So this is a 90s occult investigation TTRPG. So it's inspired by stuff like Millennium, the TV series, Twin Peaks, Silence of the Lambs. So you basically play an investigator, a team of investigators that are hunting serial killers in a rain-soaked city teetering on the edge of apocalypse. Because this is an investigation-heavy role-playing game, there's going to be no combat. So that's kind of a different thing for me. I'm used to kind of dynamic combat games like Rune Cairn and We Deal in Lead, games that I've made previously. So this is going to be a totally new approach. So I wanted to talk a bit about the inspirations for Midnight of the Century, and I'll do this as a series. So this will be the first one, obviously. Trying to do these a bit more off the cuff and not as staged and not as polished as my other stuff, just to try something out. So the kind of the primary influence and primary inspiration is Millennium. So that's a TV series from the 90s. It ran for 3 seasons, starting in 96, I think, 96 to 99. It was created by Chris Carter, who was the creator of X-Files. And like X-Files, it was shot in Vancouver to stand in for Seattle and Portland and other cities in the Pacific Northwest. So that's what the setting is for Midnight of the Century. Generic Pacific Northwest. So you can set it in Vancouver, you can set it in Seattle, Portland, but you can also run it wherever. And it's a 90s game with all 90s influences. So it's set in the 90s, anywhere from 95 to 99. The closer you get to the year 2000, the closer you get to Apocalypse, which makes sense given the inspiration of Millennium, which was kind of the idea. So yeah, Millennium, the main idea of Millennium was that Frank Black is an ex-FBI agent who's a criminal profiler. He's working with an independent organization called the Millennium Group, who work with law enforcement to consult and provide guidance on cases to do with serial killers or other kind of, I guess, high-level investigations like that. So stuff you would have FBI investigators working on or FBI analysts. The Millennium Group might bring someone in to consult on like they consult with local law enforcement, like police departments, but they also consult with FBI. So they're who the FBI would turn to for assistance in the kind of the world of the show Millennium. And so Frank has this gift where he can see what the killer sees, is how they put it. It may or may not be a psychic ability. There's arguments for and against it in the actual show itself. Frank says that it's not psychic, but you can argue that it is a psychic ability. So he can see what the killer sees. Takes the form of like seeing glimpses in his mind of different crimes, or he can share a hallucination that the killer sees. So it's often shown in like stylized clips of like the killers can be like they think they're doing God's will, and so they see burning flames, that sort of thing. So that's what Frank uses to kind of track them down and to get in their heads and understand their motivation. So it's similar to like a criminal profiler, or like something like Mindhunter, which is more recent, but set in the 70s. And then like there's Mindhunter, and then there's Manhunter. Manhunter's from the 80s, it's based on the Thomas Harris book Red Dragon, which was the first book that introduced Hannibal Lecter. And it was made as Manhunter and Red Dragon. So those are kind of influences for Midnight of the Century as well. So the thing about Millennium that makes it interesting is that along with the investigating serial killers and tracking them down, there's also an element of good and evil, of angels and demons, of like a religious undercurrent to everything, and the actual end of the world, the Millennium, at the Millennium, which, you know, back in the 90s, it was a thing that people were worried about. When it turns from 1999 to 2000, obviously along with the Y2K bug, but also like the concept of the show is based around that the end of the world would happen on the when in the year 2000. The when that actually happens changes throughout the show, obviously, as you get closer to it, closer to the actual date as you're filming. So that's kind of the main influence, the core influence of Midnight of the Century is Millennium. You should definitely check it out if you can find it anywhere. It's not as easily available as it should be, because I think it's a really cool show. Lance Henriksen is Frank Black, amazing actor, and he brings a lot of gravitas to it. So in Midnight of the Century, you can play a profiler. That's the specialism, and so you're basically that's the Frank Black archetype. See what the killer sees, law enforcement, and helping the Ouroboros group in Midnight of the Century, helping them to solve cases and track down serial killers. So Millennium was super stylish, and there were a lot of like rainy streets and like dark shadows, and it looks really good as a TV show. And the kind of stuff like in season 2, it gets more to do with the supernatural, like more directly supernatural stuff. But there's a lot of cool like mythology and lore of the world, and like the Millennium Group itself. They've got ulterior motives. So all of that's I'm gonna work into Midnight of the Century. So I'll be talking more about the influences and inspirations for Midnight of the Century as I continue to develop it. But absolutely check out Millennium if you can. If you like 90s, like supernatural detective investigation thrillers, it's really good. I highly recommend it. All right. If there's anything you want to know about Midnight of the Century, if I've developed it yet, I'll tell you. So leave a comment if you want to know more. All right. Thanks. See you later.